2025. And it's Nicky Aya who accepts the winning constructor prize. Guido Pini, who's of course already had a pole position this season back at Renault, he now adds a podium to what has been quite an impressive rookie season. Of course, he has had his knockbacks too in 2025. After that early battle with Yusei Yamanaka when they were battling for 11th place, he emerges from all of the mayhem today with penalties galore with a podium. Second place for Luca Linetta, that equals the best result of his Grand Prix career so far. He was second in Moreira 12 months ago. Given what he's been through in 2025, that is very much the least he deserves. A horrible broken leg he sustained back in Assen. The bare facts don't really tell the full story, but they do tell you just how dominant he's been. 13 podiums, 5 pole positions, now 9 victories, and with it all, the title of Moto3 World Champion. We give you Jose Antonio Rueda.
Moto3 World Champion Jose Antonio Rueda, top of the World Championship, top of the podium and top of the world is the 19-year-old Spaniard who has crowned what has been an utterly brilliant 2025 campaign. Jose Antonio Rueda wins the first Moto3 race of 2025. Rueda wins at the rodeo in Moto3. 2 wins in the first 3 Grand Prix as he extends his World Championship lead. Rueda has got a problem. Rueda have retired with technical problems. That's going to hurt. Rueda wins on home soil. He destroyed the field. And now Rueda sweeps through on the pair of them. Fair play to Rueda. What's the old saying? To win a lottery, you have to buy a ticket, and he was there. Side by side, down through Vale. He's the comeback king and the British Grand Prix Moto3.
Rueda goes from back to front.
Sensational late move, pure magic in Misano from world champion leader Jose Antonio Rueda. So, in the space of 7 days, we've got 2 of our 2025 World Champions crowned. Jose Antonio Rueda, following Marc Marquez, who of course prevailed in Japan last time out in MotoGP. Coming up next will be the latest chapter in the battle for glory in Moto2. 22 laps of Moto2 action coming up shortly as Rueda just tries to process what has just happened to him over those 18 dramatic laps here. There is the pit board. These are the images that you're going to see light up social media all around the world as Jose Antonio Rueda gets to start soaking up the celebrations, soaking up the adulation of his title success. There's the boss who's been by his side throughout this stellar campaign. Nicky Aya, who said pre-race to Jack on the grid, we've told him this is just like any other Sunday, this is just like any other race. Got to try and block out the fact that he could be crowned world champion. Well, he certainly did. If there was any pressure, if there were any nerves, he didn't show them at all, did he? A big embrace between Rueda and Iho, who of course have been here before the Finnish team. They've produced so many great stars, haven't they? They're currently operating right now in MotoGP. Very shortly we'll be getting confirmation of the final classification for Rueda, Lunetta and Pini at your podium finish. But there is your world champ.
It took a while to sort it all out with the penalties applied, but this is your final result. Jose Antonio Rueda, the 9th win of the season from Luca Lunetta and Guido Pini. Max Quiles, once his penalty was applied, is classified 4th. Jacob Ralston, a fine 5th place, the best of his Moto3 career. Adrian Fernandez, who of course caused the red flag and Munoz's crash, his double long lap relegated him to 6th ahead of Angel Piqueras. 7th, not enough to keep him in the title hunt. Yamanaka, Nepa and Kelso going forward. Kelso, despite his early crash, got a top 10. Batelli, Foggia, Ruche Moodley, Marco Morelli 14th, and a first World Championship point for Eddie O'Shea. So Jose Antonio Rueda is the world champion with only 100 points to play for. He's 109 clear of Angel Piqueras. 14 points the gap from 2nd to 3rd. David Munoz now, of course, detached in 4th place, having failed to score today. Jose Antonio Rueda then, your Moto3, the world champion. Congratulations to him and Red Bull KTM IO. Moto2 is on the way in just a moment.
MotoGP has landed back in laid-back Lombok for Chapter 18 in 2025, with Phillip Island and Sepang still to come on the Asia Australia end-of-season swing. It's the majestic Mandalika track in Indonesia that follows hot on the heels of Marc Marquez's title success in Japan. Expect a heated battle in energy-sapping conditions that will push brain and body to the limits. It's time to race in MotoGP. Welcome back to what is a scorching hot Sunday here. In round 18 of the 2025 MotoGP World Championship, join us live as we start our coverage of the Moto2 battle here in the Grand Prix of Indonesia, here at the Pertamina Mandalika circuit. There's already been a very dramatic start to our 18th race day of the campaign. No spoilers in the commentary box here, but it was a pretty eventful Moto3 race that kicked off all of the Grand Prix action here today. Under what are predominantly clear blue skies, just a few bits of cloud to give the fans a bit of shade here in Mandalika. We call it magnificent Mandalika, we call it majestic Mandalika, and this is the reason why. We are so close to the nearby Java Sea, so close to the nearby beaches. Of course, this is a surface paradise in this part of Southeast Asia, world renowned for surfing. Well, who's going to be riding the crest of the wave in this upcoming 22-lap Moto2 battle here in Mandalika? It feels like we're experiencing the hottest conditions of the weekend so far, so this is going to be a tough one, a brutal test of both mind and body over the 22 laps. And the championship, which still has 3 main contenders, does it? Are we still counting Aaron Canet? Well, of course we are, as a big contender, although the Spaniard now 49 points adrift of championship leader, fellow Spaniard Manu Gonzalez. Yesterday, in hot conditions in qualifying, it was Diogo Moreira, the LCR Honda-bound Brazilian, who powered his Italtrans racing team Calex to pole position with a 132.341. Moreira over a tenth and a half clear of 2024 Moto3 World Champion David Alonso on the grid. Ethan Guevara having a real strong Indonesian Grand Prix, putting his Blue Crew Pramac Yamaha Bosca on the front row of the grid for the very first time. Manu Gonzalez, the World Championship leader, 34 points clear of pole starter Moreira going into this Grand Prix of Indonesia. He goes from fourth. It has been another disaster weekend, though, as far as Aaron Canet is concerned. Third in the World Championship, losing key ground in this title chase last time out with a very lonely 15th place in Japan. Canet 49 points now adrift of the series leader, and having had a dismal qualifying last weekend in Motegi when he started on 22nd place, hasn't really got much better this weekend in Mandalika. Canet once again back-to-back Grand Prix. The Banting Racing rider starts outside of the top 20. We've talked for so long about this potentially being a three-rider fight for title glory in Moto2 this year. Let's not discount, though, the likes of Barry Baltus, the Belgian, in fourth place, 56 points behind Gonzalez. Worth noting, of course, there are still 125 points to fight for in 2025. A further 10 behind Baltus is Brit Jake Dixon, who was back on podium form last time out, second in that Grand Prix of Japan. Oh, that's a postcard shot, isn't it? Absolutely jaw-dropping. Shots of the waves crashing from the Java Sea onto this pristine coastline here in Lombok. Matt Byrne-Lewis to be talking you through all of the action in Moto2 coming up with Jack Appleyard down in pit lane. Manu Gonzalez then looking to build on a 34-point lead in the World Championship, starting from fourth on the grid. Manu Gas is with Jack.
Yeah, he is on a searingly hot grid. These are the most testing conditions of the year so far, without a doubt, as Manu just gets the ice pack on the back of his neck, the cold towel around the neck as well, just to try and bring the body temperature down. Manu, all weekend you've looked really strong, great pace yesterday morning. What's the plan going into this one?
Yeah, we have a really good pace. I'm feeling great with the bike. But yeah, as always, there are some riders they can stay there in the front of in the first lap of the race. They will try to fight hard for me to not go away, but we will try to maintain the calm. See what we can do. Of course, if we are in the first positions in the first laps, we will try to go away. If not, just maintain the calm and then try to do at the end of the race, maintaining the good temperature on the tires. But we are ready for all the situations of the race, so no problem. We will try to push and put more points in the middle.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to the 23-year-old Madrid-based Manu Gonzalez. Sounds very calm, sounds confident. Bit of a surprise actually to see him off the front row of the grid in fourth place after he dominated practice on Friday afternoon, dominated Saturday morning's practice. He's due a big result though, isn't he, Gonzalez? No podium in the last three, no win in the last 8 since Mugello. As we mentioned, Ethan Guevara impressing this weekend, Lewis, his first ever front row start in Moto2.
Yeah, he had to come through qualifying one though yesterday, did Guevara. Quite surprised, I guess, to see him in qualifying one in the first place, but he's had good pace for a few rounds now, hasn't ultimately put it together, would probably have been in the podium battle last weekend in Japan had he not crashed while trying to pass David Alonso. That is not Manu Gonzalez, as you can see on your screens. That is unmistakably the winner of the Japanese Grand Prix, Danny Holgado, who is the form rider in Moto2 right about now, the top point scorer since the summer break. Could he potentially spring another surprise and take the fight to Gonzalez and company?
4 podiums in the last 5 Grand Prix for the 20-year-old Spaniard, including 2 brilliant victories. Dominant was in Catalonia, dominant once again in Motegi last time out. Holgado going for 4 podiums in a row for the first time in his Grand Prix career. He goes away then from 5th on the grid. Holgado 1 place ahead of fellow Spaniard, all Spanish second row, of course, with Marcos Ramirez there. We just saw there for the American racing team having a strong weekend. 6th place for the number 24. His best qualifying in 6 since his front row in the Grand Prix of Czechia.
Trying to keep icy cool, quite literally there, with a bag of ice on his forehead is the World Championship leader, Manu Gonzalez. Seemed to intimate there to Jack on the grid that he might have the pace to run away at the front of the field if he can get to the front early on. And I have to say, looking at his pace in practice, I believe him, because he's looked a class apart from the rest. But never underestimate Diogo Moreira's capacity to up his game when it matters most on a Sunday. Boy, did he pull it out of the bag yesterday in qualifying when it looked like David Alonso had a first Moto2 pole all sewn up. Moreira had other ideas on his last lap of qualifying too. He is the chief title threat now to Manu Gonzalez. Just connect deep on the grid. It's Gonzalez and Moreira surely going head-to-head for the title.
Fifth pole position of the season for the 21-year-old Brazilian. We are expecting news in between this Grand Prix of Indonesia and before we're back on track in Phillip Island in a couple of weeks' time. Final confirmation that Moreira will take the seat in the LCR Honda in MotoGP alongside Johann Zarco. Well, he's looked strong all weekend as well, hasn't he? David Alonso back-to-back front row starts on this flyweight tour so far for the Colombian. He's second on the grid and he's with Jack.
Yeah, since the summer break he's been in fine form. David, what's the plan today? What's possible?
Yeah, today just stay focused on the light to make a good start and just try to be like prepared for the first lap. Don't sleep on the first 3 laps, and then just to stay there with the hot condition and push till the end. Yeah.
Good luck, have fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's hope he's wide awake then for those first 3 laps of this 22-lap Grand Prix in Moto2. Took his first ever front row start here, Moto3 Alonso, back in 2023. We've just seen there then Barry Baltus, who's at the back of the 3rd row of the grid. 56 points back in the title chase is the Belgian. We're just looking at Colin Vire, who does head that 3rd row, which does feature Jake Dixon. And perfect time, you can see him on screens right there. Jack is about to talk to the Netherlands teenager.
Colin, another good weekend so far. Looked pretty strong yesterday morning. What's the plan?
Plan is to be stronger than we did in Motegi. Motegi, we made some problems in the first lap, so we tried to fix that. Yeah, I will just try to be very aggressive, at least, and to see where we can finish in the end. But yeah, at least we need to try to be faster in the first few laps, and that's what I'm going to try to do my best for.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Qualified top 10 in 5 of the last 6 as the Rebel KTM IO rookie. Thanks very much, Jack, and thanks to Colin Vire, as always, for talking to us down on the grid. Middle of that 3rd row then is Jake Dixon. 2 podiums in the last 3 Grand Prix, runner-up in Catalonia and runner-up in Japan, are keeping his faint, and I'd say faint with a capital F, title hopes alive. 66 points adrift of Gonzalez. 5 rounds still remaining. He's a big outsider, but never say never in World Championship racing.
Of course, he finally got the long-awaited official confirmation in midweek of where he'll be next season. Jake Dixon heading into the final 5 Grand Prix of his Moto2 career as he moves over to the World Superbike Championship next season, where of course he'll be partnering Solskjaer Chantra at the factory Honda squad. Ayumu Sasaki then, who lines up in 13th place on the grid, off the back of his best ever qualifying in Moto2 a week ago in Japan, which he didn't quite translate into the sort of results he'd been looking for. Did get a poor start, which cost him 5 or 6 places, which he ultimately never recovered. But he did score points in 14th place. Points now in back-to-back Grand Prix for Ayumu, looking to extend that streak today. Starting a row ahead of him, 10th place is Albert Arenas. Of course, not on this Moto2 grid as it stands for 2026. It's a whole new Gresini lineup being put in place next season, with Alonso Lopez and Sergio Garcia pairing up together again. Arenas in 10th place. He barely had podium pace last weekend in Japan, but started way too far back on the grid when he was on that 4th row. He's on the 4th row again today, with Ivan Ortola right next to him. Ortola starting in 11th place, the 3rd of the Boscoscuros on the grid, with Guevara on the front row and Dixon 1 row ahead of him.
Best qualifying in 7 since the German Grand Prix in the Saxon ring for the 20-year-old Spaniard Ivan Ortola. 5 minutes then to race start. This could be a real significant battle in determining the destiny of this year's Moto2 tussle. The 3-minute ball being waved at the front of the grid. That means now, of course, you are no longer able to make any adjustments to your motorcycle, as we once again Never going to get tired of looking at this spectacular coastline here, are we? On the spectacular holiday island of Lombok. A couple of hours on the plane over from Jakarta. A little short boat ride from nearby Bali. That's Manu Gonzalez then. This is a race for cool heads. This is the time of the season for cool heads, isn't it? When you are fighting for glory in the World Championship. Long overdue win, as you mentioned, Gonzalez. Haven't seen him on the top step of the podium since the Italian Grand Prix Mugello. And speaking of Italians, Celestino Vietti finds himself a little bit out of position, down in 14th place. Of course, he was fighting at the front and in the podium battle in Motegi last weekend when he was collected by Manu Gonzalez.
All riders have got the same route on tyres, by the way, the softest available front and rear combinations, except for Darren Binder.
So it's a first Moto2 front row start for former Moto3 world champion Ethan Guevara. Ahead of him, another former Moto3 world champion, David Alonso, the Colombian. Back-to-back front rows in Japan and now here in Indonesia, but looking to keep his world title hopes firmly alive, looking to build some serious pressure on champion leader Manu Gonzalez from his 5th pole position of 2025. It's the Brazilian Diogo Moreira.
5 rounds to go in this Moto2 title battle. Will we be in for another twist today? Diogo Moreira looking to gain more points, starts from his 5th pole of 2025 ahead of David Alonso and Ethan Guevara, his first front row start in Moto2. Manu Gonzalez heads row 2, he's had great pace in practice. Danny Holgado and Marcos Ramirez alongside. Ramirez best qualifying since Brno. Colin Vaya, Jake Dixon and Barry Baltus together on row 3. Albert Arenas heads row 4 ahead of Ivan Ortola and Tony Arbolino with his recently operated arm last the distance this time. Ayumu Sasaki 13th ahead of Celestino Vietti, who came through Q1. Zonta van den Gorberg after a crash in Q2 qualified next to him in 15th. Alex Ascridge's best qualifying since Austin. He lines up 16th ahead of Danny Munoz and Philip Salach. Adrian Huertas 19th with Joe Roberts and Aaron Canet next door. Back-to-back Q1 exits for Canet. Next up we have Senna Aegis equaling his worst qualifying of 2025. He's got Darren Binder next to him. Alonso Lopez, his worst qualifying in 72 Grand Prix in P24. Achi Kunai and Aradre on road 9. Aradre has a long lap penalty and Jorge Navarro completes your grid.
So in sweltering heat, baking heat and humidity here in Mandalika, we are set for the Grand Prix of Indonesia in Moto2. That's your championship picture. 56 points splitting your top 4. Manu Gonzalez, 238 points collected from the opening 17 rounds of the season. Doesn't matter what happens, immaterial what happens in this Grand Prix of Indonesia. He will go to our Australian Grand Prix at the spectacular Phillip Island in a couple of weeks' time as the World Championship leader, 34 points clear. As you can see, he is ahead of Moreira. 15 points further back then is Aaron Canet, who really is having to work with all his might to keep himself in this title race. Aaron Canet's had a real poor recent run, hasn't he? 15th in Motegi last weekend was his worst point scoring finish in 5 years since Portimao in 2020. No podium in the last 7. That's the longest Canet has gone without a podium in World Championship racing in 5 long years as well. His form vanishing at the worst possible moment for the 26-year-old Spaniard. Crash on Friday afternoon as well, right here at turn 60, not doing anything to inject some much-needed confidence back into Canet. Let's not forget, of course, he starts this Grand Prix 21st on the grid. He won last year, leading every single lap from pole position. So, a big shock to see Canet completely at the opposite end of the leaderboard so far here this weekend in Indonesia. He was on pole and finished second in 2023 behind Pedro Acosta. He was third here in 2022, so he's never actually finished off the box in our 3 previous visits in Moto2 to this magnificent Mandalika circuit. He's got it all on to get himself anywhere near the podium battle from 21st place on the grid. We're keeping close tabs on Canet's progress then in this Grand Prix. Moreira, though, it is that starts on pole position. Can he take big chunks out of Gonzalez's 34-point lead in the championship? The 2 title contenders there in the same shot. First will be Moreira, fourth is Gonzalez. Alonso and Guevara also on that front row of the grid. It's lights out and we're racing in Moto2 here in Indonesia. It's a poor start further back by Colin Vaya on that third row. They've got the 95, like his front wheel will just go skywards. As they run down to the first corner, it's going to be Guevara that's got the whole shot. He's got the inside line on the pole starter at Moreira. Moreira in second place, drama further back.
Yeah, Gonzalez has lost a place to Holgado, who was the fast starter from row 2. Contact there involving Arbolino on the second, and the blue crew bikes the other one, those right at the front.
Yeah, Arbolino had his leg off the footrest there, didn't he? Guevara then it is that leads early doors here in Mandalika. Moreira in second place, been a lightning start once again by Danny Holgado. He's immediately picked up 2 places, 5th to 3rd. He's been ultra aggressive once again, winner of 2 of the last 3 Grand Prix already quickly in this early battle.
Surely Moreira's going to attack at the earliest available opportunity, but Guevara, as Gonzalez found out back in Barcelona, is very late on the brakes and very difficult to overtake. Gonzalez getting hung out to dry there by Alonso as they battle for 4th place.
Dixon and Arenas having a good battle further back as Gonzalez seizes the inside line going through turn 12. There was a lot of room there and he took it. Alonso was a little bit wide, wasn't he, going through that turn 12, and Gonzalez then back up into where he started this Grand Prix in 4th place.
So it's Altola then right behind them on the next to the Boscoscuros. He's 6th ahead of Jake Dixon and Albert Arenas. So Vaya's punishment is he's all the way back to 16th place for his poor start.
Cracking start that by Altola as well. He started this Grand Prix in 11th. So he's picked up 5 places. Dixon was
crash
on.
at the back.
Dixon was hot there, wasn't he, going into turn 16?
Joe
Roberts has gone down further in the order. Yeah, there is. Well, it's Marcus Ramirez on the American race machine to start this Grand Prix in 6th place. Guevara then is the lead at the end of lap 1. This is just the second lap that Guevara's led in his Moto2 career. Ramirez and Arbolino were the 2 fallers at the end of that first lap. Well, that first lap started and ended in dramatic fashion for Tony Arbolino.
Yeah, so a Scridge also involved in it. He's made good progress after a very strong start. It's going to be at the back of the picture. We're going to need to look out for this. So 24 was on the inside there of Ayumu Sasaki. Is he going to have his own accident? No, it's going to be a Scridge coming through. Arbolino was there on the outside of that. 3 or 4 different lines all converging into one there.
So a Scridge and Ramirez are out of this Grand Prix.
Moreira
has got to the front. Also trying to waste little time and getting through on Guevara. It's Holgado on the inside of Guevara. Goes Holgado into turn 10. That's a lovely move. Textbook move on the brakes into 10 by Holgado. It didn't give any chance for Guevara to turn it. Holgado does not want to let Moreira get away here. So too Gonzalez, who's trying to get through on the inside of Guevara. That's tight going through the high-speed left-hander of turn 12. Guevara just drops back across the nose of Gonzalez. Gonzalez still there in P4.
A long, long way back there. I'm impressed at the risks that Gonzalez was prepared to take there. There was the moment where Guevara lost the lead to Diogo Moreira, but Maurice Moreira going to try and bolt here whilst Gonzalez is still bottled up behind Holgado and Guevara. Is Moreira going to take this as his opportunity to escape?
So Guevara led for 1 lap at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. He's led for 1 lap here in Mandalika. It's a short stint at the front of this race as Moreira and Holgado pick him off on that lap 2. Moreira 1:33.230, fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. Arenas just trying to get himself back into this lead group of 6. He was close to half a second behind Altola in that 6th place, but yet he took 8 on that last lap from Dixon.
Aaron Cadet has made good progress, of course, with some contact and some retirements up ahead of him. Cadet's up into the points immediately. He's in 13th place, ahead of his teammate already, Barry Baltus, who's gone the wrong way. He's dropped 5 places.
We saw Vaya struggle with a poor start off the line. He's regrouped and came over the line down in 11th place. Joe Roberts in 12th, and Moreira already starting to make a potentially decisive early break. Gonzalez coming for a long way back on the brakes on Guevara into turn 10. Gonzalez has just got in too hot there, hasn't he?
Well, we've seen that already this season for Manu Gonzalez. Ikan Guevara is one of the hardest riders in Moto2 to outbrake and overtake. And of course, Gonzalez, the more and more he's busy battling with Ikan Guevara, he's not keeping Diogo Moreira in check.
Holgado looking once again so strong. He's never had 4 successive podium finishes in his Grand Prix career. So Gonzalez looking to build on that 34-point lead in the World Championship. He has not been able to find safe passage as yet through on Guevara there on the 28 bike, who's going to flick it left through the final corner.
Centre Egypt has a long lap penalty, by the way. He's in 21st place, so some poor news further back for the intact squad. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix then for Danny Holgado, who is not letting Diogo Moreira scamper off at the front of the field just yet.
Further down, Vietti and Dixon at the tail end of the top 10 as we look at then. World Champions leader Gonzalez runs onto the curbs, the paintwork on the exit of turn 1. Holgado then slightly the faster rider of the top 2 further down. Salah has just picked up Lopez for 16th. Canet at the moment in 11th, having got through on Joe Roberts on that previous lap.
Well, it took us all by surprise a little bit in Japan, didn't it? Not that Danny Holgado won the race, but the scale of his victory. He just cleared off at the front of the race. So Diogo Moreira will know, with the 27 right behind him, this is by no means a comfortable advantage for the number 10. Of course, 2 bikes at the moment between himself and Manu Gonzalez. He'll be after something like that at the finish as he tries to claim big points and close in on the current series leader.
They were faint title hopes, weren't they, for Barry Baltus and Jake Dixon, 4th and 5th in the championship respectively, coming into this Mandalika Grand Prix. We might be very, very shortly writing off their title hopes, because at the moment Dixon still down in 9th place, Baltus struggling down in 13th spot, and when you think we've got Moreira and Gonzalez in the battle for the win and the podium here, going to be surely a bridge too far for Dixon and Baltus to keep themselves in contention with just 100 points left up for grabs after this Mandalika Grand Prix. Moreira then banks it left through the final corner. Let's just check a narrow advantage he has over Holgado in second, just over 3/10 of a second. Guevara and Gonzalez, they've just set their PB laps in this Grand Prix. In fact, the quickest rider out on circuit right now is Guevara in 3rd place at 133.290. Took over a 10th out of Moreira and Holgado.
I wonder whether Gonzalez here is just learning from what happened to him a week ago in Japan and just staying patient. He lost his patience a week ago when he tried to pass Celestino Vietti into turn 10 and picked up a long lap penalty. He might just be sitting there in 4th place just thinking, let's let the other riders ahead, let's let them use their tyres up, leading the Grand Prix. I'll save mine in 4th place. Still an awful long way to go yet. We're only on lap 5 of 22. Gonzalez looking to learn the lessons from what was a disastrous Japanese Grand Prix a week ago.
Canet's got some serious speed. Good time to pick up the Spanish rider at the moment. He's just on a 133.493. This is him starting from 21st place on the grid. He's already been super aggressive in the opening part of this Grand Prix. Up 10 places, a 133.493 from Canet on that last lap. Well, that was pretty much matching the pace of Moreira and Holgado at the front.
Yeah, that contact you just saw on your right, that was why Stenaragius picked up a long lap penalty contact with Zonta van den Gorber. He has now served that penalty, he's back in 24th.
Back with our top 2, Moreira from Holgado, Guevara and Gonzalez coming into the picture as well as we go through 16. This is lap 5 of 22. Oh, somebody's gone down. Was that Alonso, I think? It is. David Alonso, I think. It looks like he's lost a rear. He's high-sided coming out of turn 16. Well, he said he couldn't sleep at the start of this Grand Prix to let the lead group go away. He certainly wasn't sleeping. Well, that has rattled his bell, hasn't it? Alonso then bails out of the top 6. And there's now a clear split at the front of this Grand Prix because Moreira, Holgado, Guevara and Gonzalez are all 2.5 seconds clear of Ortola.
Oh, that's the second big crash that David Alonso has had this weekend. He had a big spill at turn 5 earlier on in the weekend, but landing hard on his head and on his neck there, Alonso. That will hurt all the way to Australia.
Well, the initial landing was horrendous. And then a couple of other additional big whacks on the head there. Really, really happy to see David Alonso walking away from that one, because that was massive. Gonzalez then at turn 10. He's tried this move before on Guevara. And this time around, once again, he goes a little bit wide. But he just drops across the nose of Guevara, going through the right-hander of 11. So he has taken Gonzalez 6.5 laps to finally get his way through on the resistant Guevara. Although Guevara goes through now, that's a brilliant move by Heath and Guevara. Down through the high-speed left-hander of turn 13.
Guevara trusting the front end of his Boscascoro there, wasn't he? And Manny Gonzalez will be thinking, I've seen this movie already back in Barcelona. It took me all the Grand Prix to pass you. I'm not having this one again.
We saw this movie last time out in Motegi. It was Celestino Vietti on that occasion that was providing the opposition and the competition to Manu Gonzalez. Oh, it's Holgado! Danny Holgado has crashed out. Well, it's been a nightmare. 5 minutes or so, hasn't it, for the CF Moto squad. Vietti's gone down. This already, in these baking hot conditions here in Mandalika, is turning into a race of survival. Danny Holgado then crashes out of second place. That does push then Gonzalez up onto the podium positions. So in what the successive laps in the last sector, David Alonso and Danny Holgado, CF Moto teammates, bail out of this Mandalika Grand Prix.
So that now leaves a massive gap behind the top three. Back to Alberto Reinas, who's now in 4th place on he's done a 34.4 last time round, full half-second clear of Ortola. Canet now up into 6th place, unbelievably, from 21st on the grid. But Gonzalez has got a crack on here, because Moreira, leading this Grand Prix now with the Holgado threat removed. Can Moreira pull out some advantage here over this chasing pack, whilst Gonzalez is bottled up? Gonzalez wants to get off after his title rival here.
This makes life a little bit easier as far as Gonzalez is concerned. He set up beautifully. That was all set up with the corner speed going through turn 11 as he attacked Guevara, going through the left-hander of 12. You could see Guevara in the big moment there on the front as Gonzalez came charging through. Of course, with Holgado out of contention, it's one less rival for Gonzalez to try and pick his way through. There you can see Holgado just washing out the front end of his Calyx machine going into turn 17. First big blunder we've seen from Holgado for some time.
Well, I'm sure Guevara wants to win this Grand Prix, who wouldn't? But if he just plays his cards right here, there's a 3.5 second gap behind him back to Alberto Reinas. There's a comfortable podium here for Ethan Guevara. Of course, only had one before in Moto2. Sepang last season. Gonzalez already taking a bit of a defensive line down the main straight, looking to thwart any counter-attack from Guevara. Moreira is a second up the road from this.
Yeah, Gonzalez is a 133.7, of course, a little bit slower because he had to work incredibly hard to get through on Guevara. Gonzalez, that was 0.3 slower than Moreira. Moreira then 1.1 seconds, he was 1.2 seconds now as they clicked through the first sector on this lap 8 of 22. Full gas from Manu Gas, that Triumph 765cc motor screaming through this second split.
Well, no disrespect intended to Aaron Canet, who's now in 5th place, but this World Championship, for all money now, is looking like a straight shootout between Diogo Moreira and Manu Gonzalez. Are we about to see this pair go head-to-head for Indonesian Grand Prix victory shortly?
This is a pretty intense battle further back. The 4th place is being led at the moment by Reinas. There is Canet in 5th. He did just pick up that 5th place from Ortola on the previous lap. Tony Arbolino's going to drop one position for overtaking under a yellow flag.
Plenty of them too on the last few laps, of course, with both Aspar riders and Celestino Vietti all crashing out. Jake Dixon is just behind this battle. He's in a battle of his own with Ivan Ortola. Baltus also trying to come back through, so both Banting riders making moves here. Canet through on Reinas. Baltus in the background looked like he was passing Jake Dixon too, so the Banting duo, Baltus did not make his move stick, but one of them has. Canet up to 4.
That lead between Moreira and Gonzalez has held station. 1.1 seconds it is. Once again, already losing touch with the top two ahead of him is Guevara. He is half a second now behind Gonzalez. Brilliant this by Canet. What a rescue he's putting together here. This could be huge, couldn't it, for his World Championship? Really was pre-race very much in damage limitation mode. Well, he really is limiting the damage right now, isn't he? Up from 21st on the grid into P4 as we start lap 9.
There's a major battle going on in the background there between Sasaki and Roberts, I think it was, for 9th and 10th place. Roberts got that move done and ran Sasaki out wide into turn 2. So Diogo Moreira then, 34 points is his deficit to Manu Gonzalez. Of course, he wants a bike between himself and Manu Gonzalez if he's going to win this race, but we're all set, aren't we, for this head-to-head we've been waiting for. It's fair to say that Diogo Moreira has got in the head of his title rivals this season, including Manu Gonzalez and Aaron Canet. Gonzalez will be highly motivated to chase down the Brazilian from here.
Up the road, Moreira still a second clear of Gonzalez. Well, it's been a miserable day, hasn't it, on race day number 18 for CF Moto Aspar. Just minutes after David Alonso's real vicious, nasty high side going through turn 16. Danny Holgado's victory hopes disappearing right there, just tucking the front, going through that final corner. After his early drama, Alex Screech has just pitted for heading hands. He can't believe he knows that was one that got away from him. The mistakes have been few and far between of late for the brilliant Holgado. Once again, that's 3 laps in a row now where the gap between Moreira and Gonzalez has been 1.1 seconds.
Is Gonzalez just saving? Is he just saving for the second half of this Grand Prix? Because in race rhythm earlier in the weekend, as Dixon goes wide and loses that place to Baltus, Gonzalez was able to do 32s on his long run earlier on in the weekend. These are the hottest conditions, the most punishing conditions though of the weekend, so just Manu Gonzalez just, is he a little reluctant just to go too hard too early? He might need that rear tyre for a late battle with Moreira.
Further down, we've got Joe Roberts in 9th, Colin Vieira is 10th. Those two have just come through on Sasaki. And Darren Binder potentially in the points for just the 4th time in 15 Grand Prix this year for the South African. Salach, Huertas and Lopez also in your point scoring place. Lopez has had to do a lot of hard work to get himself through from 24th on the grid. 1.1 seconds remains that gap in the first sector. Gonzalez has just taken a little bit of time back on Moreira. The gap now down to under a second, 9/10 to be precise. As we come through turn 13, Guevara has given up the ghost in terms of winning this Mandalika Grand Prix. He's now fallen over a second behind Gonzalez, a very lonely third as it is right now for the 2022 Moto3 World Champion.
The good news for Guevara is he's still lapping quicker than everyone else behind him. Canet now at the front of that chase group is doing 33.9, still a quarter of a second a lap slower than Guevara, although we are only approaching half race distance, so still plenty could change yet. If anyone is a little bit too bold with their rear tyre, they could fall back later on. Guevara is now back into the 134s, but once again, nothing to choose between Moreira and Gonzalez over the whole lap.
Gonzalez cannot do anything about bridging that 1.1 second gap over the line between himself and Moreira. 133.465 from Moreira, a 133.475 from Gonzalez. They're matching each other, aren't they? Lap by lap, blow for blow at the moment. So much at stake, isn't there, between the pair of them. Moreira at the moment will be clawing back a further 5 points on his chief championship rival. That will be down to 29 points. Connect with this brilliant damage limitation performance at the moment is only going to be losing 7 points in this championship battle. Top end of the circuit, turn 10. You can see how hard Gonzalez was pushing that Pirelli front tyre as he grabbed a handful of front brake into 10.
Fortunately for Canet though, he's in a position in the championship where he needs to be gaining points on Manu Gonzalez. As ultra impressive as he's been, is this where Guevara lost a bit of time, or we're just looking at an arty slow-mo? He did lose a bit of time, nearly lost the front altogether there. That's into turn 16. I was wondering why he lost half a second to Canet on the previous lap. He's already lost another 0.3 on this lap. Did Guevara push a bit too hard too soon? And is he going to soon come under pressure for that podium position?
What a save, what a save. You could just see the vibration. That front Pirelli tyre was chattering his brains out, wasn't he? He did so well to stay on 2 wheels there, Ethan Guevara. You see him digging his knee and his elbow into the tarmac. Marc Marquez would have been proud of that one, wouldn't he? Awesome to see that slow motion replay of Guevara, because at one point there he must have been thinking, oh no, I'm blowing this 3rd place as Huertas gets on in the 12th place through on Binder. But once again, that's now 5 laps in a row. Guess what? Moreira leading Gonzalez by 1.1 seconds. This time around the exchange, 133.6s.
Moreira just riding against his pit board really at the moment, just looking at that gap, which continues to say plus 1.1. You'll just be hoping that doesn't say plus 0 at any stage, and that Gonzalez is starting to catch him. This is the battle then between 2 Grand Prix winners already from this season. Jake Dixon, 2-time Grand Prix winner at the start of the season. Joe Roberts winner back in Brno, 8th and 9th they're scrapping for here.
Behind these two is Colin Vieira, who has got himself down to a 134.091. His pace is really picking up the Dutch rider as Roberts goes on the inside of Dixon then up into the top end of the circuit, turn 10. Second half braking zones here in Mandalika. Vieira has a good look over his left shoulder and he will spot a Yuma Sasaki not too far behind him. On that last lap, fair play to Vieira, he was half a second quicker than both Dixon and Roberts.
Partway through this lap, the gap is not changing. Moreira to Gonzalez, it remains around 1.1 seconds. Gonzalez, if he's not saving at this stage, when will the impatience start to build? When will the annoyance start to creep in for Manu Gonzalez? No matter what I throw at Diogo Moreira, he just always seems to find an extra gear on the Sunday. Gonzalez, through all the practice, looks to be by far and away the most superior rider. On that lap, Moreira was actually a 1/10.5 quicker than Gonzalez.
Yeah, they're getting quicker. They are getting quicker. The 33.7s, 33.6s now. Moreira's into the 133.3s. 1.2 seconds now clear of Gonzalez. Guevara, after his big warning, his big scare, going through 16 a couple laps ago, he's just clearly rolled out of it a little bit. His pace has really slackened off. Guevara, that's successive laps now. He's been in the 34s. He's still well clear of Canet, 3.1 seconds clear of his fellow Spaniard. Canet's about 3/4 of a second in turn ahead of a rain Hassel. Tola, Baltus, Roberts, Dixon and Vieira are your top 10.
Yeah, that advantage Guevara had though was nearer 4 seconds 3 or so laps ago, so it is very much coming down. Canet could still catch that in the final 10 laps or so of this Grand Prix. Of course, Canet needs every point he can get with his World Championship hose slipping away.
Well, this flyway tour has been a bit of a nightmare as far as Celestino Vietti is concerned. Of course, he was cleaned out by Manu Gonzalez's aggression last time out in Motegi. He was an early faller, an early casualty in this Grand Prix as well. That's going through turn 16. That was all of his own doing, wasn't it, for Celestino Vietti? So it's going to be nil point as we get through the halfway stage of our Asia-Pacific adventure. Let's just check this gap then once again between Moreira and Gonzalez, who've cleared off and left everybody else trailing in their wake so far in this Grand Prix. Once again, 1.2 seconds is the gap, and once again the exchange, almost identical lap times. It's going to be fascinating to see the lap-by-lap analysis post-race here between the Brazilian and the Spaniard. How many laps in a row have they been almost on, well, identical pace? They are just trading blow for blow, aren't they, the two?
It's a fantastic display, showing exactly why they are now the two leading championship contenders in this brilliant Moto2 season, where we've seen Diogo Moreira already take multiple victories this season, a couple of victories which he took pre-summer break. Manu Gonzalez, the most prolific winner so far this season, 4 victories he's taken, although all of those were in the first 8 Grand Prix of the season. It's been something of a drought for Manu Gonzalez, and there is much more than just 25 points up a grams here for Gonzalez, the chance to strike a serious psychological blow against his closest rival.
Roberts is cracking on in his battle, his personal duel with Dixon, a 133.719 from the Californian. Only 2 riders on circuit ahead of Roberts were faster. And they're on screens right now, your top 2 in this Grand Prix, both Moreira and Gonzalez. A very lonely third as it stands right now for Guevara. This is that battle further back. Baltas is starting to really close in on Ortola directly ahead of him. We're on board now actually with the Belgian rider, 4th gear through turn 13, up to 5th, and then briefly into top gear 6 as they charge towards turn 16. Baltas has got the inside line there through on Ortola. That was the perfect time, wasn't it, to ride on board with the number 7. So Baltas then now up into the top 6.
Gonzalez will be feeling like there's a force field at the moment between himself and Moreira, keeping them 1.1 seconds apart, because halfway around that lap that was just completed, Gonzalez got the gap down to under a second. He was a quarter of a second quicker in the first half of the lap, lost all that time near enough back again in the second half of the lap, and Moreira is still keeping him at arm's length.
Roberts has just hit some serious mid-race speed at the moment. 133.663, that's back-to-back PB laps from the American. He's a second clear now of Dixon, and Dixon might have more trouble brewing behind him because Colin Vaya, once again, he's rapid as well at this stage of the Grand Prix. Vaya just put in his own personal best lap of the race, a 133.848. He is now less than 0.4 of a second back of Dixon, so Vaya could be inflicting more pain and punishment on the Brit soon.
Yeah, Roberts is as fast as the leaders at the moment. He could potentially get himself to the front of that train, which is being led by Arenas, Baltas and Ortola, so potentially a fit place for Roberts if he can catch this group and get the overtakes done. Jake Dixon, though, from his point of view, unable to stay with the pace of the American. He's now fighting a rearguard action against Colin Vaya.
Sasaki in a lonely 11th, 2 seconds behind Vaya, nearly 3 seconds clear of Aegis, who's got himself back up into 12th through on Huertas. Points at the moment for Binder and Lopez. Lopez is half a second clear of Vanden Gorberg, Dutch rider in 16th spot. Further up the road though is Vaya, who is starting to hone in here right now on Dixon. Over the line, Moreira and Gonzalez have already passed, and it's just a whisker over a second once again is that gap. First time we've seen in a long time, not by much, but Gonzalez was the slightly faster of the top 2, just a little bit quicker than Moreira on that last lap.
If he has anything extra up his sleeve, he might have to start using it soon, Manu Gonzalez, because he's not going to have an awful lot of time to do anything about Moreira if he does indeed catch him. We're coming up to 2/3 distance in this Grand Prix. We've already seen earlier on today that come into play. Lap 14 is the red flag cut-off. This is now lap 16, so if anything interferes with the Grand Prix and necessitates a stoppage, we will be declaring a result.
Baltas having worked his way through on Ortola, this very part of the circuit. He's not been close enough to attack Arenas very, very shortly. Here we go then now, Baltas. Gonzalez is charging. Gonzalez has now got some serious rhythm going. He's got the gap down halfway around this lap 16 of 22. That's the smallest the gap has been, just under 0.8 of a second.
Does Moreira do what he did a couple of laps ago and just stretch it back out again in the second half of the lap? This is the kind of Grand Prix where you are looking sector by sector. Can Gonzalez just chip away that advantage? Is Diogo Moreira going to crack? Because he is setting such an electric pace, and we've barely seen a sniff of a mistake from the Brazilian so far, but he is going to ride to the very limit of his potential to keep Gonzalez at bay from here.
Moreira is going to try and go defensive, but we know how good Baldas is in this particular part of the circuit. Last lap he picked up Ortola, a couple laps ago he got through on the Spaniard, and now he's made his move through on yet another Spaniard. The gap once again is just
quicker in the end.
Moreira a second still clear of Gonzalez. Miles behind is Guevara, 4.4 seconds behind Gonzalez in second. Baltasar now moves up into P5 finally. So our top 4 in the World Championship now, 4 of them inside the top 5. Canet 4th, Baltas in 5th place. Reinason has been punted back to 6th. Ortola 134.2. He's not exactly a sluggish pace, but he has got Roberts closing in on him in that battle for 7th.
Credit to Guevara there, back down into the 133 for the first time in quite a while. That lead over Canet, which was nearer 4 seconds when Gonzalez passed Guevara, it's now down to just over 2. So Canet hasn't given up on that final podium position, but if Guevara can hold that sort of pace in the high 33s or low 34s, he should have enough in hand.
Aaron Binder's just dipped into the 33s himself, a PB lap in 14th place. He's being dragged back to Aegis in that battle with Adrian Huertas. Good battle that further down the field. The reigning World Supersport champion on course for more points for the Italtrans racing team. The bigger picture and the bigger points as far as the Italian-based squad that are concerned is at the front of this Grand Prix. Moreira on course to take what would be 5 precious points back off Gonzalez in this intense battle for title glory. Just checking the top 2 through the 3rd sector on lap 17. It's still Moreira has it by a second.
And if it does end like this, Moreira first, Gonzalez second. Gonzalez, for the second Sunday in a row, is going to be cursing his start, isn't he? Once again, he lost ground on the start line, was behind both of the Aspar riders, and only passed Holgado because of his crash, and of course took a long time to pass Ethan Guevara. Is that ultimately what is going to decide this Grand Prix?
Team communication just reminding Moreira what the state of play is. 5 laps remaining here, 5 laps away from what would be a super important victory in the World Championship. Oh, Gonzalez there has a moment on the gas going through turn 5. Look at him sliding the rear tyre going through 6 as well. He really is being pushed to his absolute limit right now. Philip Salac, Jake Dixon of Marvius Racing teammate, has just pulled into the pits, so Salac is out of the Grand Prix.
Lost 4 tenths as Gonzalez now with the errors or the slight moments. It's almost hard to call them mistakes because of the level they're running at, but he's now 4 tenths further back. This is Philip Salac going straight on into turn 1. And it's not the first time we've seen him quizzingly looking back at his bike. He's had technical problems already this weekend, and it looks like it struck again.
All that effort out there in the most demanding conditions of the season, and he has to pull out with 5 laps to go. Moreira, he has not put a foot wrong, has he? He has been picture perfect so far in this Grand Prix. Through the final corner he will go now. We're about to have just 4 laps remaining of this Mandalika Grand Prix. Yeah, this is the biggest lead he's had by a mile. Over the line he comes. 133.8. Gonzalez, well, he had 2 scares. We saw Gonzalez lose the rear through both 5 and 6. And he might just be thinking, now, you know what? Yeah, I've pushed as much as I can. Moreira has not buckled. He has not cracked at all. Taking a little bit too much out of those Pirelli tyres. Let's just lock it down now. Let's not take any more big risks. Let's not throw away 20 points. We're only going to be losing 5 to Moreira, but Moreira is just immaculate. This has been, it's been almost an exhibition in how to lead a Grand Prix at the front this by Moreira. Yet you can see further down Gonzalez is losing a whole chunk of time right now. He's got 3 tenths compared to Moreira in sector 1 alone. This one is over.
Well, this is the last Grand Prix before Diogo Moreira is officially confirmed as a MotoGP rider with LCR Honda next season. Boy, has he demonstrated today exactly why MotoGP teams were so keen to sign him. He hasn't put a wheel wrong so far this afternoon. We stress so far because there are still 3.5 laps of this to go, and he is riding at such a high level. He hasn't been out of the 133s all afternoon, and it's Manu Gonzalez, the ice-cool Gonzalez, who has blinked first.
further down, a move that has been coming for a couple of laps now. Vaya's got through into 9th ahead of Dixon. Sasaki's struggling late on here. He's been picked off on this lap by both the Huertas and Binder. So Sasaki's been dumped back down from 12th to 14th place. There is Ethan Guevara. Let's just check the gap between him and Canet. Looks like Guevara can relax and play it cool, play it safe in the final 3 laps of this Grand Prix. Chelsea's Vietti pits once again. What a nightmare he's had here on Sunday in Indonesia. Almost 3 seconds over the line was Moreira's advantage over Gonzalez, who clearly has now just rolled out of it. He's just going to take his medicine from Moreira. He's doing mid-34s right now. Here's Gonzalez, which is once again in back-to-back laps about 9/10 slower than Moreira.
He's now the slowest rider in the top 13 on track. Guevara looks like he's got 3rd place under control. He's now lapping quicker than Canet. He's not allowed that gap to get under 2 seconds, so unless something goes wrong in the final 2.5 laps, Guevara is on course for his first podium of 2025, which will take the incredible tally up to 16 different riders this season.
Through the right-hander of turn 10 goes Gonzalez. He's called this one off. He has decided to wave the white flag. He's under no pressure at all behind him, so he can cruise to 2nd place. And he will he'll know, he's known for quite some time that Moreira is only going to be taking 5 points back off him in the World Championship. 29 there will be the buffer between Moreira and Gonzalez with 4 to go. It is very much game on, isn't it, in terms of the World Championship this year. Further back there is Vaya, who we mentioned has finally found a way through on Dixon for 9th place.
Aaron Canet then up the road in 4th place, in a rather lonely 4th now. He's 2.5 clear of Barry Baltus, who surely from a fantasy point of view is not going to take any points away from Aaron Canet in the World Championship given the situation. And as good as he's ridden today, Aaron Canet, almost in a different way, as impressive as his victory here last year, 21st up to 4th is no small feat. But ultimately, with so few rounds remaining in the World Championship, doesn't feel like it's enough.
Yeah, it feels like that championship is slipping through the grasp of Canet. Just has not been on the podium, hasn't been on the top step of the podium enough, has he, so far this season? No podium in what's going to be 8 successive races now. That's scarcely championship form as far as the 26-year-old Spaniard is concerned. Diogo Moreira has been here before in Mandalika. He took his first and only success in Moto3 here back in 2023, and he's on course for a super important, a key and critical victory once again here in Mandalika to keep his title hopes well and truly on track and alive here in Moto2. 3.8 seconds he is now clear of Manu Gonzalez.
I'm sure many of you have noticed the slightly different helmet design that Diogo Moreira is racing this weekend. If you're not familiar with the story, it is a nod to his maiden Moto3 victory here 2 years ago. The love affair with Mandalika looks set to continue.
This is a battle for 11th place. Huertas Binder versus Aegis. As we mentioned, Sasaki was really suffering it at this stage of the Grand Prix. He's down now in 14th place. Is the Japanese rider there. He is just coming through your shot on the 71 bike. Point scoring finishes in 2025 have been few and far between for Darren Binder, so excellent ride by the South African. Last lap then, underway here for Diogo Moreira. 4.3 kilometres standing between the brilliant Brazilian and a key success here in Mandalika. 4.2 seconds he is clear of Gonzalez. Well, he pushed the Spaniard to places the Spaniard didn't really want to go. He just had by far the better pace. A couple of scares with 3 or 4 laps to go as far as Gonzalez was concerned, and he was not worth the risk. Senseless throwing away 20 vital World Championship points. But Sunday in Mandalika has been Moreira's.
So much of this weekend has been about Manu Gonzalez. Quickest throughout free practice. Looked like he was the runaway favourite going into qualifying, but Moreira pulled a magic lap out of the bag at the end of Q2, and that was key to this Indonesian Grand Prix. Secured the track position on the grid, converted it into the whole shot at turn 1. Gonzalez was bottled up in the early stages behind Aspar riders and behind Ethan Guevara, and while that was the case, Moreira had that 1 second buffer which Gonzalez never closed down.
How significant, how key could this victory be for Diogo Moreira? Well, we'll find out, won't we, now, remaining 4 Grand Prix of 2025. But it has been nothing short of a masterclass in Mandalika from Diogo Moreira. Next week it looks like finally we'll get confirmation of him moving to MotoGP in 2026. Will he be the 2025 Moto2 World Champion? Well, we'll find out, won't we? Diogo Moreira, though, it is that takes the victory here in Indonesia. He made it look so easy. A dominant win by 4.6 seconds ahead of Manu Gonzalez. Ethan Guevara does hold on for just his second ever Moto2 podium from the front row as well, after he had that massive save on the front end about half race distance. Connect from 21st to 4th place. Well, Diogo Moreira is going to be doing all the Eurofarming at the end of this Grand Prix. What a ride by Connect. Brilliant ride, just about keeping himself in the championship picture. 21st to 4th. Baltus is 5th, top 6 for Arenas. Top 10 to Roberts, Ortola, Vaya and Dixon. Points for Huertas, Binder, Agius, Sasaki and Lopez. But Ital Trans Racing know just how big potentially that victory could be. Of course, now he's a Moto3 winner in Mandalika. He's now a Moto2 winner here in Mandalika. Moreira, your man in Mandalika.
The chase for the title is very much on for Diogo Moreira. Gap down to 29 points. And if Manu Gonzalez wasn't already well aware of it, that he's going to have to fight for this all the way down to Valencia in November, Diogo Moreira made that abundantly clear this afternoon. The overwhelming pre-GP favourite, certainly the pre-qualifying favourite, was Manu Gonzalez, but Moreira turned the tables and pulls back 5 crucial points.
Third win of the season for Moreira, none bigger than that one for the Brazilian. That's his 7th podium now in the last 11 Grand Prix. He is really starting to wind up the wick, pile on some big pressure on the shoulders of Gonzalez. Excellent ride that, stunning ride by Guevara. Fantastic weekend all round from the Spanish rider. It was certainly an eventful Grand Prix for Guevara, who led the opening lap, his first podium since the Sepang Grand Prix 12 months ago.
That one was rather gifted to it, wasn't it, at the end, with Jake Dixon having a bit of a malfunction of miscounting the laps. But there was absolutely no fluke or no luck attached to that one from Guevara, who has been saying, and the team have been saying actually for a few rounds now, that he's got podium pace. Today he delivered on that promise.
First dry race podium, of course, for the Blue Crew Pramac Yamaha team. Congratulations to them, as Moreira gets the Brazilian national flag draped over his shoulders. We're going to get some more samba, aren't we, very shortly in Parc Ferme. Moreira, yeah, the big fist bump. He knows the significance of that victory. A couple of times the lead was under a second, but apart from that, he managed that lead at the front so beautifully. I have to say that he never really came under any kind of big pressure. As I said, Turkey's debut victory here back in 2023. And now, Diogo Moreira's 4th career victory. You can hear how much it means to him as he revs the Triumph 765cc motor. Ital Trans Racing, they are more than aware. Might well look back on this Indonesian Grand Prix and feel that was a moment where he had to go toe-to-toe with Manu Gonzalez, and he came out on top. Brilliant job. 4.6 seconds clearly was at the checkered flag. Say that Gonzalez clearly did back out of it. He rolled out of it late on after there was a couple of big slides on his rear tyre towards the tail end of that Grand Prix. He always had that luxury to back out of it when he was so far up the road of Ethan Guevara.
Lovely scene for Mario Aggi. He makes his way into pit lane. He came across line in 20th place today, did Aggi. Of course, some injury problems have affected his season. This was one Grand Prix he ideally not have wanted to miss. It was hot and sweaty work in the end, wasn't it, for Manu Gonzalez. Diogo Moreira in the end, though, was too hot for even Manu Gas to handle. Aaron Canet takes 4th place. Understandably, absolutely spent after his incredible comeback today. Not enough, though, for him to stay in World Championship contention. Let's get some reaction now from Ital Trans with Jack in pit lane.
Yeah, with Francesco Manzoni of Ital Trans. What a huge result that is for Diogo, to keep the World Championship alive as well. 4 rounds to go, is this fight on?
Yeah, it's what a perfect weekend on pole. It was a perfect pace. Okay, they are ready. So
we aim for the victory. He showed pace since yesterday, dominant race. I told him we have to push since the beginning, don't worry about tires. He did it with confidence, so we keep believing on this. We should, no?
Absolutely. Let's hear the party popper. Give us one little blow of it quickly. Ital Transport have got one down here. This is what it sounds like, guys, to take victory.
Well, there's going to be nobody gate crashing the party of Diogo Moreira here. The party poppers then going off for the Brazilian. The samba then does indeed get started. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant performance that by the 21-year-old Brazilian. The winless streak rolls on to 9 successive Grand Prix now for Manu Gonzalez. Just Phillip Island, Sepang, Portimao and Valencia left. And it looks like we could be heading for a final round showdown towards the end of this season. Maybe we're just starting to rule out Canet as a title force. 56 points now back of Gonzalez in the championship. What a rider, what a weekend for Ethan Guevara. Third on the grid, third in the Grand Prix with the big front end moment. He's with Jack.
Ethan, what a fantastic ride onto the podium for only the second time in your Moto2 career, but it also nearly ended at turn 15. Just how close was it? A brilliant save to get onto the podium.
Yeah, crazy race, crazy hot condition here. I'm so happy for me, for the team. I work every day for a repair. I'm so happy and I enjoy too much the race. And in the last sector I closed my front and good save, but incredible result, incredible weekend and enjoy this moment with the crew.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That wasn't a good save, Ethan. That was a phenomenal save which kept him in that third place. Here is the replay. Just watch that Pirelli front tyre now. Look at the movement as he digs the knee and the right elbow into the tarmac. Oh, that was where he had the heart in the mouth there. Thankfully for him and thankfully for Blue Crew Pramac Yamaha, they stayed upright. As mentioned, that's their first dry podium finish of the season. We're going to hear very shortly from Manu Gonzalez. Fourth on the grid, did fight his way into podium places, but it's yet another race where he misses an opportunity. Second though here in Mandalika is your world championship leader with Jack.
Manu, a fantastic ride to get onto the podium. Was the championship in your thinking with 5 laps to go because you were pushing, and then it seemed like you decided, okay, second is a great result today?
Yeah, the start was not bad, but I lost one position and then I had to battle a lot and I lost the feeling with the front tire and then I was starting on the race and I say, okay, I don't arrive to Diogo, so I stay in second position and take the points. Yeah, we lost 5 points, but it's okay for the championship, maintaining the pace, and I'm really happy.
Great ride, well done.
Thank you.
He says he's really happy, he doesn't exactly look it, does he, to be fair. The 23-year-old Spaniard, yeah, looked clearly, didn't he? He realised that Moreira on the day just had too much pace, too much performance. Kept the pressure on, didn't he, until sort of 2/3 distance where that gap was hovering constantly around 1.1 seconds, around a second. But he just could not push Moreira into any kind of mistake. We're going to hear from our race winner then very shortly. 2023 Moto3 winner here in Mandalika was Moreira. And now he's the 2025 Moto2 winner here in Mandalika as well. He's got the party poppers as well. Let's go, maybe he's going to give us another tune. Moreira, though, your winner here in Mandalika with Jack.
Diogo, you took your first victory here a few years ago. Now you've done it again. Another Mandalika masterclass to keep the championship alive. Just how important a victory is that?
Yeah, I'm really happy. I think we made all the weekend really good, so I'm proud of this. And yeah, this circuit a lot, so this is more easy to make the things, you know. So yeah, really happy. Now we need to continue like this, and yeah, now we need to enjoy.
Huge congratulations.
Thank you.
Fair to say, Diogo Moreira loves Lombok, and I think Lombok loves Diogo Moreira. This was the key early move. He made it very early. Guevara led on the opening lap of that Indonesian Grand Prix, making light work of the Spaniard ahead of him was Moreira. And from that moment onwards, well, he was seldom really troubled, was he? Just behind him at that stage was Danny Holgado, who was his closest rider in the early part of that Grand Prix before Holgado jumped off his CF Moto. Calix going through turn 17. A stand-up wheelie to celebrate a massive, massive victory in terms of the championship. More celebrations coming shortly for Moreira, as he's about to be confirmed as an LCR Honda rider in MotoGP. What a time it is for Diogo Moreira, firmly in the battle for Moto2 glory in 2025, and with his future signed, sealed and delivered in 2026 and beyond as a MotoGP rider with HRC.
There were one or two, I guess, slightly envious comments in Diogo's direction earlier on in the season, questioning ultimately just how good he was from his other title contenders, suggestions that he can only really follow riders, that's how he qualifies so high up the grid. Well, there was everyone else following Diogo Moreira today, setting a pace all on his own at the front of the field that no one could match. Of course, in Austria he won in very similar circumstances when he led from the front and was never headed. And there's no question now that with 4 Grand Prix to go, there is a serious title battle on. It looks like it's 2 now. Aaron Canet 56 points back with only 100 left to play for, but just 29 between the top 2.
That was very hot, very thirsty work, wasn't it? Fans who made what is a very, very long trip from Brazil. Although I have to say, I do remember seeing those in the paddock in Japan last week, so they made the exact same journey as us, 6,000 kilometres south from Motegi to Mandalika. The Brazilian fans have had so many special moments already so far in 2025. Will they claim the ultimate prize? Will Diogo Moreira ultimately win out and get the better of Manu Gonzalez in this battle for Moto2 supremacy this season? It does look like we are now down to just 2 standing in terms of the championship battle. 100 points left to fight for. Canet 56 though now back of Manu Gonzalez, taking nothing away from what was an absolutely outstanding ride today by Canet. 21st on the grid to 4th. Unfortunately, doesn't keep his amazing podium record going here in Mandalika. He never finished off the podium before today. Had Canet. He was close. 4th place here today in Indonesia. As our top 2 in the World Championship, top 2 in that Mandalika battle. And congratulations once again, Ethan Guevara. What a weekend for him. P3 on the grid. P3 Grand Prix.
Becoming the 16th different rider this season to stand on a Moto2 podium. Closing in on that record of last year, aren't we, when 19 different riders took a podium finish. Ethan Guevara has stood on the podium here before, and his Moto3 championship winning season of 2022. Fine ride that, fine performance all weekend. Manu Gonzalez, I'm sure he won't enjoy the sound of all the party poppers down in Firme, because Diogo Moreira, MotoGP in his future, and potentially too, a Moto2 World Championship coming in the future too. 4 more races for him to complete the chase of Manu Gonzalez. On your screens, centre and to the left, your 2 Moto2 title challengers for the rest of this season, barring something hugely dramatic that brings Canet Baltus back into play. They're over 50 points back now. Second career podium in Moto2 for Ethan Guevara. His 15th Grand Prix podium, of course, after being so successful in Moto3. And the first dry podium for the Blue Crew Pramac Yamaha Boscoscuro concern. Manu Gonzalez. Well, it's podiums and victories that win you championships. He hasn't had many victories in the second half of this season, but he does notch up a 10th podium of 2025. But a 3rd victory of the season, and surely the most significant. He beat Manu Gonzalez head-to-head today. Diogo Moreira sends a warning shot. The title chase is on.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please your fight, the next rider of the field.
Monaco, alongside Spaniards Manu Gonzalez and Ethan Guevara. Camp here under the podium. Some very noisy South American fans who have certainly enjoyed their weekend so far in Lombok. It'll be a pretty good evening as well, won't it, for Moreira and the Italtrans Racing team. She takes his third win of the campaign. That one felt really, really important, didn't it, in terms of the championship. So your race winner here then, in that thrilling Mandalika Moto2 battle, Diogo Moreira.
It was a head-to-head between the top two in the championship. Diogo Moreira won it. Manu Gonzalez second. Ethan Guevara on the podium for the first time in the blue crew third. Aaron Canet from 21st to 4th. Barry Baltas, his teammate, next up in fifth. Moreira 6 from Joe Roberts, who showed good pace midway through. Yvonne Ortola, Colin Vire and Jake Dixon. Your top 20 points for Huertas, Darren Binder, Senna Aegis, despite an early long lap penalty for Yuvi Sasaki and Alonso Lopez, who came through from outside the top 20 to score the final points. No points though for the Aspar team. Both Danny Holgado and David Alonso crashing within a lap of each other when both were in the leading group. So Manu Gonzalez's lead is cut by 5 points. It's 29 now, his advantage over Diogo Moreira. Aaron Canet feels like it needs snookers now, 56 points further back. He's now 9 ahead of his teammate Barry Baltas, takes it third and fourth. Alex Constructors Champions, that was wrapped up in Japan a week ago. Bantic Racing though, their team's championship lead is looking a little insecure. 30 points their advantage over Intact GP of Mark VDS, down just 10 ahead of Italtrans, who leapfrog Aspar today. Moreira took pole position yesterday, and how crucial that ultimately proved to be. As Manu Gonzalez lost a place off the line to Danny Holgado, Aaron Canet went on the attack as he looked to make up for his poor qualifying. Ethan Guevara was your leader at the end of lap 1. That would soon shift hands as Diogo Moreira snatched the advantage on lap 2. Nasty high side for David Alonso, landing painfully after his high side at turn 16. Fortunately, he was soon back off on his feet. It went from bad to worse for Aspar just 1 lap later. Moments after Celestino Vietti went down, Danny Holgado did the same. Front end tucking into the final corner, leaving Diogo Moreira clear at the front. More misery for Nico Tirol. His former Aspar Moto3 champion though, Ethan Guevara, was keeping Manu Gonzalez at bay. He lost second place and then very nearly lost the front into turn 16. This monumental save, his road to a podium. No matter what he tried, Manu Gonzalez could not chase down Diogo Moreira, who takes a third victory of 2025, and he cuts Manu Gonzalez's championship lead down to 29 points with 4 races still to go.
a 2-hour flight from Jakarta, and a quick-fire boat ride from Bali lies Lombok, famous for magnificent beaches and breathtaking landscapes. The Mandalika circuit neighbours the town of Kuta, a world-renowned surfing hotspot on the island's scenic south coast. Marco Bezzecchi is eyeing a pole, sprint and Grand Prix treble in some of the season's most testing conditions. It's time to race in MotoGP. First ever Indonesian Grand Prix was won by MotoGP legend Minggu, and all the way back in 1996 we returned to this stunning part of Southeast Asia, to the Mandalika circuit in 2022. What a circuit as well, a testing layout, searing heat for the riders to contend with around this 4.3 kilometre, 2.67 mile circuit. Hard braking into the first corner, starts a pretty tight first sector. The track really opens up through a wonderful, fast and flying sector 2. A tight fourth sector as well as you decelerate down into turns 15, 16 and 17. 1 and 10 are the most demanding braking zones around this Mandalika circuit. Plenty of overtaking hotspots into 1, 10, 12 and 16. This was last year. Pecco Bagnaia against fellow Italian Frankie Morbidelli at turn 10. So Marc Marquez's reign as MotoGP World Champion started with a 13-lap sprint here in Mandalika. A great start by factory Honda rider Luca Marini, was immediately into podium contention. He was to later on have tyre pressure dramas. Raul Fernandez was fighting out at the front with fellow Spaniards Fermin Aldeguer and Pedro Acosta, as world champion Marc Marquez had a trip to the long lap penalty loop with that aggressive move on Alex Rins at turn 10. Marco Bezzecchi from pole position had dropped all the way back to 8th on that first lap before he produced a rousing recovery. What a fight back by the Italian. He made that late move on the very last lap at turn 10 to deny Fermin Aldeguer history. Aldeguer within inches of becoming the youngest ever sprint winner. But it was a super Saturday, wasn't it, for the factory Yamaha team and Italian Bezzecchi. Can he follow it up? He has never had a double victory. He's never had a treble in MotoGP, has Bezzecchi. Pole position and the sprint victory already signed and sealed. Now he's looking for the big one. 27 laps, 27 real punishing laps coming up for the MotoGP riders. It is incredibly hot, it's very humid here as we make our 4th visit to the Pertamina Mandalika circuit. Don't be fooled by some of those grey clouds overhead in the distance there. Not really offering much shade, not much shelter from what are sizzling hot temperatures here as we go racing in Chapter 18 of this year's MotoGP World Championship. Second 7 days ago to Pecco Bagnaia did see Marc Marquez lift the World Championship for the 7th time in MotoGP with 5 rounds still remaining. Hasn't celebrated with great style, it has to be said, so far this weekend. Mark 2 crashes on Friday, his first Q1 appearance on a factory Ducati yesterday, and he was 7th over the line at the end of the sprint on Saturday afternoon. He was pushed up though to 6, with Luca Marini getting an 8-second post-sprint penalty for a tyre pressure infringement. Nobody so far this weekend though has been able to get close really to Marco Bezzecchi. What a ride that was. A stunning fight back from 8th on lap 1 to take just his 3rd ever sprint victory. There he is, Bez, the 26-year-old Italian. 6 podiums already so far this season for the factory Aprilia team. Matt Burt-Lewis still to be in the comps, but it certainly has been over the last a couple of years with a record low finishing tally here 1 year ago. What's going to be the tyre pick? Well, Jack Appleyard has been busy talking to Michelin. What are they thinking, Jack?
Yeah, early news